Hi, it's James here from the 11 Plus Tutors again. Today I'm going to do a follow-up video about negative numbers, just to make sure everyone's on board. I think this is a really important part of the 11 Plus knowledge base. It can come up in many ways. It can come up in terms of function machines. It can come up in algebra. It can come up in just normal maths problems. They want to know that kids understand the rules of negative numbers, and to be honest with you, it is covered in school, but lots of kids come to me and they're not totally familiar with this, and they really need to be for the exam. So I think the main thing to think about is this number line. So if you, some people have a horizontal one, I always find it helpful to have it vertically. If you think about counting up and down the number line in a positive direction when we're adding, and the negative direction when we're subtracting. This is the main rule that we need, or main set of rules that we need to remember. So any signs that when we're adding and subtracting, so first of all, let me make this clear, I'm talking about adding and subtracting. Multiplying and dividing are really easy, but it's a bit different. So adding and subtracting, two signs the same that are next to each other, that's keeping next to each other, even if it's negative and negative, is a positive. So 1 minus minus 1 is the same as adding. Okay, so 1 minus minus 1 will be 2. When we've got signs that are different, it's the same as subtracting. So let's look at some examples. We've got minus 3, minus 2. So we start, if we get children to think about the number line, if we think about minus 3, and then what we're actually doing is subtracting 2. So when we're subtracting, we're going further down. So we go further down and we count down, we end up at minus 5. When we've got minus 3, minus minus 2, this becomes, they're two signs next to each other, so they become an add. So it's minus 3, add 2 is minus 1. So minus 3, going up, add 2, you end up at minus 1. And then you've got 1, which would be here, count down, subtract 5, so we'd end up at minus 4. So that's quite easy to understand, but we need to remember this. That's really important. When we get to multiply and divide, it's actually really easy. What we do is we totally ignore the positive and negative values. We apply a simple rule to the end. So this isn't when they're next to each other, this is just in general. Are they positive or negative? So minus 1 times minus 1 is positive 1. I will say that to the kids, get some thinking. But if you have something like minus 1 times 5, that's positive and that's negative, so the answer is going to be negative at the end. So you do the sum, ignoring the positive or negative values, you get the result, then you apply the rule after when you multiply and divide. So 1 times 5 is 5, but then we look at the rule. You've got a negative and a positive, so the answer's got to be negative. So you ignore the signs, do the sum, and then apply the rule right at the end, which is a bit different to add and subtract. I hope you found that useful. I look forward to seeing you next time.